Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Movie Combat. This is Season 5, the MCU Phase 1. And we have so far, we've watched Iron Man. I gave it a 9, and PT Nation gave it an 8.3. We've watched The Incredible Hulk. I gave it a 6.9. PT Nation gave it a 7.3. We watched Iron Man 2. I gave it a 7.7. PT Nation gave it a 6.5. And now we are on the fourth installment of the MCU, which is Thor, the first Thor movie. Now, as we kind of go through these, I like to keep track of some of the, like some weird statistic of some sort. So the ones that we keep track of in this season is how many times does the superhero name get said. This one was interesting because this name is the guy's name. It's not like Tony. How many times does Tony get said? No, it's how many times does Iron Man get said. This is Thor. This is his name, and therefore we have to count how many times Thor is said. Superhero landing, which is the iconic drop from the sky, one knee down, Tim Tebow style, and like fist on the floor, and then like, you know, looking straight into the camera kind of thing, or down and then looking up kind of thing. The other thing is walk away from an explosion. There were explosions in this movie, but how many times did they walk away from it? Superhero character gets a kiss. How many times does the hero get the kiss? Stan Lee cameo when that happens, and then if there are any extra scenes, as I like to call them, extra stingers in the movie. So that is what we will be doing for this go around. So, yeah, it has been a great season so far, and I feel like we have gone through some movies of the past that have transcended this Marvel Cinematic Universe into something that is now uncontrollably just obnoxious. But hey, at one point, it was tolerable. And now, let's dive into the first ever time Thor made an appearance in the MCU. This is a little different of a Chris Hemsworth because the all blonde, like everything, is a little different sometimes, because you can look at him and you're like, something's a little off about you. You're not really look like Chris Hemsworth. I know it's you. I can hear you, but I don't know if that's I don't know. There's something different about you. He's just young, and that's really it. I also think I do want to know this, and I'm doing this in real time. I am curious. So Chris Hemsworth. That's what I thought. He dyed his eyebrows. I don't know if that's his natural color or what. I don't know which one's his natural color. The reason why I bring this up is that's what bugs me in this. It took me a minute to figure out like what is off about him in this movie. He has blonde eyebrows. It almost looks like sometimes he doesn't have eyebrows, and it bugs me, and it stood out to me so much. Anyway, so that was kind of a funny thing. But yeah. Also, by the way, do you know the man is 41 years old? Did not think Chris Hemsworth was 41. Then again, he was being Thor in 2011, and it's 2025, so I guess math kind of works there. So, yeah. But let's dive into the movie itself. I want to talk about the little weird trivia things that I keep track of here. So, how many times does the name Thor get said in this movie? How many times does it happen? I'll let chat if they want to. I'll give them a little bit of time here. So yeah, again, like I was saying, this isn't like how many times Iron Man is said, how many times the Incredible Hulk is said, or Hulk. I let Hulk pass. Incredible Hulk is hardly ever used in any of the movies. So yeah, I just went with whatever time Hulk gets said, that was what it counted. So this was how many times does Thor get said, and yeah, And I think we've said it enough. So the amount of times that Thor gets said is 26 times is how many I counted. I hope it's either give or take, but I counted 26 times Thor is said in this movie, which is not too bad, honestly. It's his name. Now I guess now going back, Iron Man 2, Iron Man was said 24 times, which is crazy because I totally forgot they said it that many times. Hulk was said 5 times, and Iron Man in the first Iron Man was said only 6 times. I guess it makes sense that in Iron Man 2 they do say it more times because obviously the name is now there. Congratulations, thanks Preacher for the update, and I'm glad you made it home safe, especially with the snow kicking around out there. No, you shouldn't have. You're gonna dive into the problem of collecting cards. Yeah, and then you have Thor, which only Thor, like I said, I counted 26 times in the movie, which was kind of crazy. Which is only, I think, 2 more times. Yeah, 2 more times than Iron Man was said in Iron Man 2. How many times does a superhero landing happen? 1 time. And Thor does do the superhero landing. I think Thor does the superhero landing. Now I'm trying to think about it. I think, was he the one that did it? I think he's the one that did it. So, anyway, it happens 1 time. I remember seeing it. It happens. Boom. And it doesn't have to be the superhero that does it. It just has to be the superhero landing. Walk away from an explosion. Lots of explosions. Not a lot of walking away from them. And a lot of walking to them because the giant robot thing, I always forget the name of it, blows up everything, and he's walking into the explosions and stuff. But yeah, you watched this movie in theaters with your dad. I think it was pretty good. Yeah, I watched this movie. I think I've watched majority of the Marvel movies with my dad. How many times does the superhero get kissed? Now, this is specifically to Thor. How many times does Thor get the kiss? Natalie Portman, who, by the way, in this movie is Natalie Portman to a full-on extent. Like, it is absolutely, it's insane of how beautiful that woman is. It's just absolutely bonkers sometimes. Like, jeez. Because there was times that I was like, they'd do the, like, shot of her, and it would just be her eyes, like, looking at Thor, and you're like, there is no way that is a natural eye color. There's no way. There's no way that a human being has that eye color. It is insane. They're like copper. It's insane the eye color that she has. But yeah, so that was crazy. Superhero kiss happens 1 time. 1 time in this movie, and it's at the very end. They get close. They get close a couple times. There's a lot of like, maybe, and then they finally do. The Stan Lee cameo. This is the latest that it happens. So in Iron Man, it happened in oh, wait a minute, no. Never mind. This is the second place. So Iron Man, the first one, Stan Lee's cameo is an hour into the movie, hour and 8 minutes. Stan Lee's cameo in The Incredible Hulk was 13 minutes. Iron Man 2, his cameo was 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes and 14 seconds. And then in this movie, Stan Lee's cameo is 36 minutes and 36 minutes and 11 seconds in. So this is your favorite one when he's in the truck? See, okay, so that's the other thing. I was trying to figure out, when does the cameo start as a cameo? Because technically you could say he's in the truck the whole entire time. And I just kind of was like, I don't know, like, maybe that's him, but, like, I don't know. So, the next one is, yeah, so I just kind of was, as soon as he was, like, on screen, officially, that's when I counted, boom, that's the timestamp. So, it's a little bit before is when the scene essentially starts, but when he actually shows up on camera, that's it. Extra stingers. There is an extra stinger in this movie, and that is an hour and 53 minutes and 6 seconds in. and that is when we get the Doctor meeting Nick Fury, and that is when we kind of are seeing that Loki is kind of like taking over him and has escaped and this whole thing. So that is essentially leading into Avengers. That is like the last movie that will go into Avengers, because timeline order, if you're looking in the timeline, so if I were looking at the timeline here, if this is Avengers, and we would technically be here for Iron Man, because Captain America happens right here at the tip. And then it just kind of gets to the point where like Loki's here. This is where Thor is, but we got to go back to then go forward. It's kind of an interesting one. But that we'll be talking about on Wednesday. So we're not jumping to that yet. We're just talking about Thor here tonight. So, I don't know. This movie is definitely, watching it again was a little bit different. I always think Thor movies before Love and Thunder they're the weakest of them. After watching this one, it wasn't that bad. It was not that bad from what I originally thought it was. I think when you go back in the time, like if you were to tell someone like, hey, what is Thor worth watching? Is the first Thor movie watching? And I'm like, yes, because in this movie, you're getting introduced to Loki. You're getting introduced to Asgard. You're getting introduced to Thor himself. You're getting emotional build up for the character of his love for Jane. There's a lot of things that this movie kind of holds that you actually do have to see the movie. There's a lot of character development in Thor himself. Like if we're just looking at this movie, it really does start with this like very arrogant, sort of an asshole, which is kind of how Tony's story is, but specifically talking about Thor. He's always been kind of like pompous, I guess I would say, where he knows that he's going to rule Asgard at some point. He knows that his dad's going to give him the reins and give him the power of Thor. Egotistical, that's another one. Yeah, so like he knows where he's going to be in this entire endeavor. Now, what's interesting is Thor gets so Loki kind of betrays all of Asgard before he realizes that he even is a frost giant, which I didn't know that. I kind of forgot that, like, he doesn't find out he's a frost giant until about a half an hour into the movie, which then gives him even more motive to be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna sell out everyone here because I'm more frost giant than these guys are. All they did was kidnap me. And the thing is like Loki doesn't realize if he would have stayed over there, he would have been a part of this very like war-ridden sort of like world where when Odin took Loki, Loki became this thing, not thing, but like became his son, treated him as such, and raised him as his own, so that he wasn't raised in the frost giant world. So in theory, it gives this kind of like give or take of like, would you have left him or would you have taken him to bring him into this what you feel as a good life? Now, when it comes down to it, Loki had it pretty much made. He was just jealous as hell because he didn't want Thor to be the one that becomes the ruler of Asgard. He wanted to be the ruler of Asgard. But that wasn't even a thing until like 30 minutes into the movie. Like he becomes this like, oh, I now have a reason to really be mad now. But before that, he just kind of betrays Thor, which is kind of interesting. Sorry, I have a runny nose, so I'm just like trying to not just... but yeah, it's so there is a lot of like build with Loki's character where you're gonna definitely Loki was a good villain in this, and it's kind of leads you to think that the frost giants are gonna be the villains. In theory, I guess they kind of are, but Loki is actually the villain. It's building that character to set it up for later. Thor's character gets this, like, literally knocked down to his knees and thrown off the Rainbow Bridge to essentially go to planet Earth, and now he's one of us. He's purely mortal. And he only can become Thor again if he truly becomes worthy enough to being Thor. And we see that build up of, like, oh yeah, I am going to defend these people I've just met. Because it is the right thing to do. I'm not going to do this for myself. I'm doing this for them. And I'm going to sacrifice myself if need be in order to protect them. So, which we do eventually get to the end of the movie, that is what happens. So, yeah, I just feel like this movie isn't as bad as I thought it was. It's definitely very worthy of watching. It's a matter of how worthy of watching is it. So, let's take a look at IMDb before we start jumping into reviews and whatnot. Let's see here. Thor. The Mighty Thor. 2011 Mighty Thor. Yeah, just like I'm looking at the screenshot of him, full blonde hair, full blonde eyebrows, full blonde, like, beard. It just doesn't work in, like, screen because it just looks weird. Maybe, yeah, because I don't know. And then now he has more of a little bit darker in there. So, again, the highlights a little bit. Also, stacked cast. Like, there's so many people in this movie. You have, like, looking back and then also looking at who was really popular at the time, like, or big at the time, too, is you had Thor, was Chris Hemsworth, who was up and coming at that point. Anthony Hopkins is Odin, who I always forget. I'm like, oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins is Odin in the MCU. Totally forgot. Natalie Portman playing Jane Foster. Tom Hiddleston plays Loki, and now currently as, you know, Tom Hiddleston is, everyone knows who he is. And then you have I always don't know how to say his first name. Is Stellan Skarsgård, which is the dad of, like, all the Skarsgårds, and he's in this. And you have Kat Dennings as Darcy, and then you have Idris Elba as Heimdall. Like, there's just so many, like, it was random because I was like, oh yeah, Idris Elba. So that was kind of cool. So let's talk a little bit about some trivia about the. Oh wait, no. Before we do that, let's jump into my favorite thing. Taglines, because this movie has to have some taglines to sell the very first Thor movie, and I never remember where they are. There they are. Okay. We have three taglines. Remember, taglines are the things that are put on the poster when you're walking in the movie theater, and you look at the side when you're walking down, and you're like, oh yeah, what's this movie about? And then there's always some sort of wording that tries to sell you the movie within, like, 4 or 5 words. Not in this case, because this second one is a whole paragraph. So we're going to get to that. Took me a minute to realize it was Idris Elba. Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is his voice in that is kind of that deep. Because Idris, obviously, he's British, so he has that obvious normal British accent he has anyway. But then, like, when it's a little bit deeper as Heimdall, which almost sounds like Knuckles. So I think he used the same voice for Knuckles. And it's funny. Okay, so here are the 3 taglines that happened. Tagline number 1: 2 worlds, 1 hero. It's not bad. It gets the point across. Even though you could kind of go, like, I don't understand what that means. He sounded just like that guy from The Office when he was. Yeah. Oh, really? He sounded like the guy from The Office where he was playing himself. Okay, second thing. The God of Thunder, the God of Asgard, the God of Mischief, the God of Worlds, the Goddess of War, the Woman of Science. That is awful. That is terrible. Okay, so the God of Thunder, Thor, the King of Asgard, Odin, God of Mischief, Loki, the Guardian of Worlds, Heimdall, the Goddess of War. Really? We're talking about her too? I always forget her character as well. I forget Thor's friends all the time. Sif. That's her name. and the Woman of Science, which is obviously Natalie Portman's character Jane. So yeah, those too many things. All right, and the third one is Courage is Immortal. Okay, I guess that kind of gives you. I mean, if you didn't know what it was, you'd be completely confused. But the hammer, courage, you need to have it to even like pick up Mjolnir. So that I could see that one kind of makes a little bit of sense. So it's not the best. I think the Two Worlds one god or whatever it was. I don't know. That was probably the best one. They're not good. Two Worlds, One Hero. Okay. Let's take a look at some trivia, shall we? All right. When Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and Sir Anthony Hopkins, that's right, he's knighted, saw each other in full armor for the first time, Hopkins said, "God, there's no acting required here, is there?" so there you go. I think they both did great. I think they both do really good in the roles that they were cast. I think Anthony Hopkins being Odin, it's really random, but it fits. Like he's good. I mean, obviously he's Anthony freaking Hopkins, so. But yeah, no, I think he did great as Odin, and he does great as Odin. All right, the first choice of the role of Thor came down to brothers Chris Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth. Chris found it funny, quote, "We both came all the way here from Australia and ended up battling against each other," end quote. He, however, bore no ill will towards Liam, claiming he was rooting for him to get the role. This marked the second time the siblings ved for the same superhero role after Alec Baldwin and... Oh, this marked the second time two siblings ved... Okay, so this is the second time the two siblings went for the same role. This also included Alec Baldwin and William Baldwin were both considered to play Batman in Batman Forever, but lost the part to Val Kilmer. Oh my God, thank the Lord above that we didn't have a Baldwin as the Cape Crusader. That would not... to replace of all Batman, Val Kilmer would have been the one that they replaced. That would have been so bad. I am so glad we did not get that. Oh man, that would have been crazy. There you go. You learned something there. I had no idea that they were even contenders for that. Oh man. Okay. Around 47 minutes, Dr. Selvig, which is Stellan Skarsgård again. Forgive me if I butcher his first name. Mentions a comrade who got mixed up with S.H.I.E.L.D., whom he described as a pioneer in gamma radiation. This alludes to Bruce Banner, who experiments in gamma radiation, mutated him into the Incredible Hulk. A deleted scene also has him mention Hank Pym from Ant-Man. So I think that's how you say it, P-Y-M. So there you go. So he knows Bruce, if you got that. At around 28 minutes, Dr. Sir Kenneth Branagh asked Sir Anthony Hopkins, who is that? How many sirs do we have? Oh. What character did he play? What? Oh, director. He directed this? All right, I'll show you here in a second. I'm so shocked that this is who directed this. I did not know he was a director. So this guy is the director who plays currently in The Haunting in Venice and in Death on the Nile, and he was also in Tenet. He's the director of the movie. I'm trying to look up a more recent picture. Can we get like a more... Yeah, right here. This guy. He directed Thor. What? Yeah, I did not know that. I didn't know he was a director. I've just seen him in movies before. But there you go. Okay. That's cool. Nice. Yeah, you've seen him in things. You've definitely seen him in things. Okay. Where were we? I got to get back to the trivia here. So, okay, so him and Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins, asked Sir Anthony Hopkins to improvise his reaction to Thor's yelling at him in the banishment scene. Okay. Hopkins agreed, and when the scene was filmed, many of the cast and crew present were sobbing. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston later said they had to struggle to keep their composure during the filming of this scene. Hiddleston later complimented Hopkins, to which he said, "Ken's fantastic, isn't he?" I'm trying to think. So around the 28-minute mark, improvises reaction to Thor's yelling at him in the banishment scene. Interesting. So when he's getting banished and Thor is that very emotional scene. Oh, interesting. Yeah, just really good acting. Just really good acting. Actors being really good actors. Executive producer Stan Lee claimed he always wanted to play Odin, but he was happy with Sir Anthony Hopkins' casting and performance in the role. So could have had a Stan Lee Odin, which would have been very interesting considering the time that it was being done at. He could have been in all of them. Okay, we got some cameos. Stan Lee's around the 36-minute mark. Yeah, that's what I had him on as. Executive producer and creator of Thor in 1962 appeared as the truck driver who attempts to throw Mjolnir out of the crater, to tow Mjolnir out of the crater in which it landed. Did not do that. Did not work very well. Okay. I'll let you guys read more facts. There are more facts on IMDb if you guys want to go check them out. I'm not going to read them all, but there is that. Goofs. Let's see what goofs we have here. Around 1 hour and 20 minutes, the coffee cup on the dashboard in the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent's car is knocked over by the vibration of the Destroyer's arrival. The Destroyer. That's the giant robot. I don't know how I forgot that name. In the next few shots of the same scene, the coffee cup can clearly be seen inside the agent's car, still standing up in the dashboard. Okay, that's just continuity. Yeah, okay. Or the continuity scene here. Around 52 minutes, when Jane and Thor are going to the crater, there are wired fences visible on the side of the road. When the camera cuts to the outside shot of the car, the fences are gone. I don't know why. Around 1 hour, Thor is soaked and covered with mud when he drops down in front of the hammer in the S.H.I.E.L.D. enclosure. When he is led away by the guards, the shot is of a very clean man in the clean navy blue top. Well, I mean, they could have washed him up. Shield to me seems like something about that they would clean him up kind of thing. I could see them doing that. Okay. That's what you thought, yeah. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, crew and equipment visible. Around 1 hour and 24 minutes, when the Destroyer fires at Thor during the attack on the town, Thor rolls towards the left in the air to avoid the explosive next to him on the ground. Thor is wearing what appear to be black glasses, possibly to protect the stuntman's eyes from the flash of the explosion next to him. Interesting. All right. There you go. That's an hour and 24 minutes into the movie, if you want to go check that out. All right. There's a few other stuff, but again, you guys can look at that yourself. Go check it out. Is there any notable quotes? There's some pretty good lines in here. Loki says in the movie, "I never wanted the throne. I only ever wanted to be your equal." That might be true. That might be not. You know, it's the thing about Loki. You never know. You never know. Let's see. Trying to find a Loki and Thor back and forth. Okay, this is a Loki and Thor back and forth. He's the god of mischief for a reason. That's true. Thor says, Loki, this is madness. And Loki says, is it madness? Is it? Is it? I don't know what happened on Earth to make you so soft. Don't tell me what... Don't tell me it was that woman. Oh, it was. Well, maybe when you're done here, I'll pay... When we're done here, I'll pay her a visit myself. And then Thor gets mad. Yeah, there's some good ones. I don't know if there's any real notable ones. Actually, there was one line in there that stuck out to me, but I can't even remember what it was. And we got crazy credits. Part of the closing credits is shot through the Bifrost, with the camera flying through the celestial realm of Yog's. That thing. Finally ending at Asgard. At the end of the film, that appears with a small lightning strike with it. Okay. The title appears with I am Thor, God of Thunder. There you go. There is a scene after the credits. Dr. Selvig meets with Nick Fury, who asks him to examine the Tesseract. Okay, well, we're not going to read that part. That was a little spoilery. I was like, oh, okay, we know that's the thing. But then they started mentioning other things. I'm like, all right, we can't talk about that part. We haven't technically seen some of these things yet. So, all right, yeah. And let's see. $150 million estimated budget. Opening weekend made $65 million, which isn't terrible. It's not great. I mean, it's passable, I would say. And then grossing U.S. and Canada, it was $181 million. Yeah, I could see that because Thor, I don't know. Thor is one of those characters that he is a well-known character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it actually does kind of shock me that he only made $181 million. But I could also see that this doesn't have a big cast yet. No one knows who this fucking guy is. So it's like he's not Chris Hemsworth yet. Like, we haven't got him yet. I think the only time that Chris Hemsworth... What was this? The first time we saw Chris was probably in a big role, was the opening part to Star Trek. Let's see here. God, he's been in so many movies since then. Thor. Okay. Yeah, Star Trek. He played George Kirk, which was the other Chris Pine. His dad in the movie. Okay, that's where we're at. That was the first time we saw Chris Hemsworth. And I remember when we were getting to Thor, and everyone was like, oh, you hear they already cast Thor? They're casting the guy from the opening scene to Star Trek. And they were like, okay. Like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Like, that was who he was. Other than that, he's in practically nothing. Actually, he was in a TV series for 194 episodes called Home and Away. I don't know where in Australia. I don't even know if that's Australian. I could easily be totally wrong on that. Let me see. Nope, Australian television soap opera. I believe his brothers were also on this as well. I know that one of them is still doing soap operas. So, but yeah. So there you go. And then after Home and Away, that soap opera, he did Star Trek. So, and then that was the first time I ever saw him. And then he did a few other stuff here and there. And then he got Thor. And then he did Thor, God of Thunder. And then he did Cabin in the Woods. And then Avengers. So, the video game, God of Thunder. It's a video game. The next Thor movie is not... Thor Dark World is the second one. So, I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. That's not the next movie. So, yeah, he did Thor, then he did the voice of Thor in the video game, and then he did Cabin in the Woods, and then he did Avengers, and then Snow White and the Huntsman. So, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do when we get to Thor Dark World. That movie, I don't know if it can hold up. But I will say I gave this movie a little bit higher than I thought I was going to give it. So maybe if I watch it again, it'll be a little different. So, going back into this, grossing worldwide, though, It almost made $450 million worldwide. So I say the movie did okay. It made $440 million plus dollars $449 million plus dollars worldwide is, I would say, a nice day at the office. So I think they did really well. It was an hour and 55 minutes. It was just shy of the 2-hour mark. Got its money back, paid the people, and then made a profit. Yep, that's the goal. Those are the check marks that you need. All right, so with all that said, it has come down to reviewing this bad boy. I do have a review from Carson, who watched this movie when I was watching it, but his will be thrown into your guys' vote, so just as your heads up. And just to remind you, this is not Thor. This is the Primal Target review scale, so if you want to know that. All right. The way that I've looked at this is this movie, I think, was a little bit better than a meh. I think it's a little bit better than a borrow just because I think the movie has so much in it that is I think it's an enjoyable movie, and if you do plan on going back to it, it's a movie you can go back to and watch over again because it is a good, like, superhero movie. It's a little slower than I think there is, but there is still action. There's still battle scenes. There's still some fights. I think it's well paced too because you get the fight scene with the Frost Giants, you get the fight scene against the Destroyer, you get a fight scene against Loki, and you get this this big old ending finale of Thor eventually breaking the Rainbow Bridge. So there's like a finishing act, and then we get what we get, and then we get our little jump into, and we're gonna see Loki again, and Thor's coming back in Avengers. So there is that. And if you didn't notice, this movie does say for the first time a superhero returning, saying Thor will return in the Avengers, because at that point the Avengers was announced. So there is that. So, Preacher, you're giving it a 7.7. Okay. Yep. And I don't know where Foxy is. He's been a little AFK there, but for me, I have got to give this movie, I think, a solid 7. I'm going to give it a 7. And did I say 7.7? I do see 7.5. So I am going to give this a movie a 7, mainly because I look at it this way. Iron Man I gave a 9. I do not think it is anywhere near Iron Man in the sense of where that movie is definitely rewatchable, enjoyable. It's just a great superhero movie. It's better to me than I think Incredible Hulk, but not so much better. I think enough to break it out of the 6s and to hit that 7. And then when comparing it to Iron Man 2, I think it's not as great as Iron Man 2, though I think the characters do have a little bit more stuff going on. When it comes down to it, it's a superhero movie. It's got to have some more action scenes. It's got to have some stuff. I did give it props for that. It did have a beginning battle, and it did have sort of an ending battle, but then there's a lot of middle stuff that's a lot of like plot, and not that it's terrible. I'm just saying superhero movie needs to have superhero blowing up stuff. This Iron Man 2 does that. This movie unfortunately doesn't do too much of that, but I do think it's a good movie, and I think it's worthy of owning. So I'm going to give it, boom, a solid 7. I said the boom thing, and I just really, it hit me, and they really ruined that thing, didn't they? There's no way of coming back from that. All right, we're just going to move on. Okay, so Carson gave it a 6.5. So that is a 6.5 plus the 7.5 divided by 2, and that is a 7. All right, so the official PT score is a 7 out of 10, and the official PT Nation score is a 7 out of 10. I don't think, have we ever matched? I don't think we've ever matched before. Yeah, I don't know. That might be the first time, the PT Nation. So there you go. Solid 7s all around, which I don't think is bad. I don't know. I actually don't know where IMDb had it. Let me just give it a gander, because I know IMDb will actually put Rotten Tomatoes on here too, and then as well as their own score. Thor. It has a 7 on IMDb. So there you go. And then a Metacritic of 57, which I think that is pretty damn harsh. But so there you go. IMDb has a 7. We've given it a 7. PT Nation gives it a 7. And it's all good. So that is going to be it for this episode. If you liked it, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you follow us or subscribe to us on Twitch. And then make sure you subscribe to us over there on YouTube. And yeah, that will be it for here. Again, if you want to check us out over on Twitch, it is twitch.tv/primal_target. Remember, if you want to partake into these ratings as well and be in the know on when videos or movies that we're talking about up to date and all that other stuff, make sure you tune in here at, oh, we got a 6. Foxy snuck in the 6 at the last second. All right, I gotta account for that. Oh, okay. So we got 6. I think it was a 6.5 plus 7. Oh man, I don't even know. Hold on. Is there control Z? Okay, it is 6.5. Okay, so 6.5 plus 7.5 plus 6. And then that divided by 3. Oof. All right, well, I guess we didn't agree. It is a 6.6. Actually, I'm going to round it up here because that's technically. It's a 6.7 out of 10 as the official PT Nation score. And then as the PT score. So we have not yet agreed on anything. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. So there you go. PT score is a 7. PT Nation score, 6.7. And that is the official score of Thor. So, next one is Captain America, The First Avenger. This is the first Captain America movie. This one, we are recording the Wednesday of this episode. Okay? So, for those that are watching live, that is what we're going to be doing on Wednesday. For those that are watching in the future, then it's already come and gone, and it's probably already posted because I'm terrible at posting these, so it's probably going to be posted here in the next couple days if it's not already up. So anyway, make sure you go check out the other videos that are over there. Iron Man is up there. Incredible Hulk is going to be up soon, and then we're going to get Iron Man 2 up there, and then the whole shebang. So it's going to be good. This is episode 4 of MovieKombat Season 5, and we will see you guys in the next video. Good night, everybody.